Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Today is February 25th, 2025. Make sure that's right. And we are here in the Commissioners Conference Room for our work session. And this work session is with our Larimer County Sheriff and our Office of Emergency Management for a session on emergency management update. And I am Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shag-McNally, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm joined by the rest of our board, Larimer County Commissioner John Kafalis and Larimer County Commissioner Kristen Stevens. Also at the table is our County Manager, Lauren DeVolker. Instead of going through all the folks there at the table, I'm going to turn this over to our wonderful Office of Emergency Management, medicine. I was on a 3-hour meeting for that lately. Emergency Management Director Lori Hodges, and also want to welcome our Sheriff, Larimer County Sheriff John Fan. He's joining us as well, and I'll turn this over to you, Lori, to start the presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you for having us. Lori Hodges, Director of Emergency Management. So I had asked the Sheriff to come today and just discuss a little bit about our current wildfire risk projections, kind of for what we're planning for the year and any planning that he wants to talk about. Anything else you want to talk about as well? So we're going to start there, and then we're going to go into some updates about, to kind of follow on to the wildfire risk. We're going to talk a little bit about our current status on some of our mitigation grants and the work plan for this year. And then we're going to talk about some of the preparedness efforts that are coming up that we're working on for this summer. So that's kind of what today's going to be all about. So I'll pass it off to the Sheriff.
Before you start, both of you, may I ask real quick, I'm assuming that maybe if there are any slides or data that we would get some information sent to us, hard copies or...
Yeah, I don't have any slides. The Sheriff has, I think, a dashboard. I don't know if it's a public willing or not.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So thank you, Director Hodges. I'm John Fan, Larimer County Sheriff, and I appreciate the opportunity to address today. Let me show you. So our good Justin Weitzel, who has a IT tech background, I think is create in his spare time when other people are recreating, he creates these dashboards. So I'm very, very thankful for that. Thanks, Justin. So let me just give you an idea what we're looking at here. So this is... But first, I got to preface it with, if you remember last year, we talked about breaking Larimer County into geographic zones based upon the Weather Service, right? So now we do our bans or restrictions based upon the National Weather Service elevations. So 6,000 feet and below are the plains, 6,000 to 9,000 feet are considered the foothills, and above 9,000 feet, eastern divide. So that's actually what you're seeing here. When you see an average fire danger score up there in the left-hand corner, that encompasses all three zones. And as I'll show you here in a minute, it varies greatly. So like what we have now is the East Divide zone, so 9,000 feet and above. It's still showing snow cover at 100%. It's showing the fire danger score at 13.4. In this case, it's like golf. Lower is the winner. So we went lower. And then there's a couple of indices here that we look at as well. So the ERC is the energy release component. The SC grass, help me, Justin, what's S? Spread component for grass. 1 hour fuel moistures, 10-hour fuel moistures, 100-hour fuel moistures, and the 1,000-hour fuel moistures. And then the KBDI is a drought index. Okay, so you're going to see that change. Right now, there is snow, not nearly as much as we typically have this kind of year. All the weather meteorologists are like 24 inches in Routt County, 12 inches down in La Plata County, right? We're not getting a whole lot there. The Fan family was just in Estes Park the other day. There is snow on the ground, but there's a lot of shrubbery and stuff still exposed as well. So right now we're not hugely concerned about the East Divide foothills. It changes a little bit. And it's so cool that it's color coded as well. Got about half of the snow covers there. The weather trend index is 54.3, and again, the higher the number, the worse it is. And so that's looking at what is the forecast looking like? What has the trend been? Where do we expect to be in the next 30 to 45 days? Is it positive or is it negative? And as you see, the drought index in the bottom has gone up. The 1,000-hour fuel moistures have gone from high to very high, and that's true for all of the components. Your energy release component is higher, and our trends are trending poorly. Let's talk about where we live, and this is like real life lived experiences that I don't have to tell anybody about. the fire danger score is 35.5. The weather trend index is 70.3. Means it's high, it's hotter, it's drier, and it's windier than is typical for a typical year. And unfortunately, that is the continuing trend that the Weather Service is predicting, is that we keep holding out for our wettest months, March and April, but right now the trend is not showing that. So 0% snow cover. I mean, I can't not tell you the last time we had measurable snow in the 6,000 foot and below for a while, to the point where our drought index is in the hundreds now, and our 1,000-hour fuel moistures is our 12.7% fuel. So understand, when we talk about the fuel moisture, you go buy a 2x4 from Home Depot or Lowe's, the fuel moisture in a 2x4 you buy from Home Depot or Lowe's is about 15%. So our 1,000-hour fuels are drier than the 2x4 you buy at Home Depot. So we are watching. I anticipate that I will be here asking for fire restrictions sooner and earlier in the year than we did last year. And it may hit where we live here on the plains sooner than it hits in the high country, just based upon what the conditions have been. I know we are coming back to you as well on March 30th to talk a little bit more about preparation plans. And we are also, I know the county attorney, Bill, is coming, at some point, we're coming back to you to talk about a change in how we implement fire restrictions and bans. So, but will require a change in ordinance. Basically what it does, it's going to follow the Boulder County model. Because if you remember Alexander Mountain, right? You guys put them in place, but when Alexander Mountain happened, we didn't have any more resources anywhere in the county to address fires, and so we needed a fire ban. Well, in Boulder County, the sheriff can do that unilaterally. It's got to come before the Board of County Commissioners, though, within a certain period of time. Here, we couldn't implement that until we could reconvene you guys, allow a 24-hour per the sunshine law posting of that meeting, and then have that meeting. So we are going to ask you to change that for us so that I can implement those unilaterally, but it has to come back before this body within a certain period of time for ratification. So I'm going to stop there because this isn't my meeting, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity to talk. But again, hugely concerned, as are all of my fellow sheriffs, no matter where they are in the state, even the high country where they're getting snow, about the moisture levels and what our fire danger is looking like and weather patterns to come. Questions?
Before we continue, I know you guys are getting questions. I wanted to give you guys a chance to ask any questions of the sheriff.
Yep. Commissioner Cavales, you have a question?
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Sheriff. I think when this came up this morning, you had mentioned that the recent snowfall would help to replenish some of the reservoirs and the aquifer, but not necessarily help with fire danger, wildfire risk. Can you elaborate on that?
No, absolutely. And I appreciate the opportunity for the question. So, right, I mean, great engineering through the 1940s, 1950s with the Big Thompson project, with NISP project. So all the snow that we are seeing fall western slope is going to get pumped through the Hansen Feeder Canal into our reservoirs. But even then, our reservoirs are lower than they had anticipated. But that snow that we're getting on the western slope is going to help our drinking water solution, our problems. But it doesn't help. We're not watering the forest with it. We're not seeing a lot of moisture. We're seeing below probably the driest and hottest winter we've seen in recorded history. It's second highest is what I've heard. So that's not helping with our fuel moistures, elevate them. The snow is going to help with keeping our communities supplied in water.
If I may just do a quick follow-up, and maybe you could speak to this, Laurie, but with this recent snowfall, everyone was like their spirits were lifted. How much snow did we actually get west of where we are? On Cameron Pass, places like that.
And I thought I heard movement. I don't know the answer to what we got up on Cameron Pass, but I know like where again, the 6,000 foot level, it blew off the driveway with the next 70-mile-an-hour wind we had. So I didn't get anything at my place.
Well, then actually, when I was up at Red Feather Lakes on February 18th, there was a smattering of, I think they said they got 1 or 2 inches, and then the wind blew a lot of it
Yes.
elsewhere. Thank
Yes.
you.
But, and to add to that, I did speak with Northern Water earlier today in a meeting that we were in, and we were talking about drought in our meeting. It was the emergency preparedness assessment that we do once every 3 years. And they said that, for this year, with the current conditions, as far as water quantity, we're probably okay. It's if this continues into next year, we would definitely be having problems, because the reservoirs right now probably have enough water to help the county throughout the year. But if we had continued drought, then that could become problematic.
But it still seems like it's a big issue for the Colorado River Basin. I mean, there's a lot of concerns about the elevation of Lake Powell and all of that.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see if Commissioner Stevens has a question. Okay, I have some questions, of course. Tomorrow I start my mountain pine beetle task force with the governor, so I have been in a lot of statewide meetings where I've been with the U.S. Forest Service, the State Forest Service, Denver Water, all the water people, and the DNR. We've been having a lot of alarming conversations, I'll put it there. So we're very aware, and I've been studying vapor pressure deficit and why the trees are one of my favorite words, but no one wants to talk about it but me, but it's something we should talk about because that's why the trees are under stress, and why they're more susceptible to the fires and the bugs and all those things. So would you talk about the snow cover at, and I was just in DC. I mean, it's really alarming to see that they're getting more snow in one snowstorm than we've gotten this year.
Yep.
The snow cover 100%. I've been up hiking when I can at, I have pictures above 9,000, 10,000 in Rocky. There's no snow on the ground. I've been up at Brainerd Lake and hiking around. I've been up a lot of places because I'm curious. And when you say 100%, does that mean everywhere you look, the snow is covered?
No, I mean, right, that's, even our weather stations where we do ERCs and we do spread components and moistures, there's like snow-tell sites. We get the information from snow-tell sites throughout the state. We get information from different weather stations that we have and other organizations have. So that, can you go to places above 9,000 feet? Can you go to a lot of places above 9,000 feet and find no snow? Absolutely. But we don't measure the whole 9,000 feet and above.
I know I'm going to get that comment from somebody, like, I live up here and there's no snow,
Right.
I know it's going to happen, so I wanted to ask that. The other question I have is, when we go to the 6,000 feet or below, we've had, today, there's a fire that closed off I-25, the picture's a little alarming. We had one yesterday, I think.
We've had several fires. Almost
Yeah.
every day we've had fires.
Yeah, and so I'm glad we're going to the 3 zones, but how do we handle that fire danger versus what could happen up in the high country this year? Because those seem to be really now in my mind, two separate risks, because those were probably, could have been a spark off a truck, or, those are really fast-moving, quick, different risks. And I'm wondering if that, I know our plans cover everything, but is there maybe, as we're looking at these 3 zones, one that would go into effect, are you thinking much sooner than later for the others, just because of these fires that we've had and just south of us on I-25?
So, great question. So absolutely. I mean, that's why we broke it into the 3 zones. And I don't anticipate the county going into restrictions as a county anymore. That could be possible. But for example, yes, there's areas above 9,000 feet where there's no snow. But for the most part, there's a lot more snow and moisture up there, and the humidities are still lower. So that if something kicks off there, we're less concerned about it than we are down here. Down here, why we haven't been before you, or I haven't been before you at this point to ask for restrictions, is only because of the availability of resources. Nobody's been deployed nationally, either through the sheriff's office or through the fire departments. All the firefighters, all the crews that address these kind of issues are available still in Larimer County. Have we deployed 50% of our resources, or Poudre sent 50%, LFRA? We would probably be asking for restrictions here at the 6,000 foot level as well. But because we have a lot of boots still on the ground to address these, even though we've been hot, dry, and windy, that's the one thing that has stopped me from coming to you and asking for restrictions below 6,000 feet.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yep.
And Lori?
You had mentioned also kind of a spark off the road, and that just reminded me, CDOT has reached out to us, just to let you guys know about establishing priority areas where they're gonna be doing the mowing operations to make sure that we don't have the standing grass along the state highways and such. So they are kind of proactively looking at that as well.
Thank you for that. And since you said that, is that something we can maybe ask our road and bridge to make maybe a priority to some major county corridors to mow sooner then or something? Just curious. Okay, that would be something to maybe do along. There's some major areas. So, okay. Oh, and then, sorry to say this, but we're getting into that time of year where there's ditch burning along the ditches before the spring and the ditches start running. It's coming, it's every year, so what are your thoughts on that, just to be proactive?
Well, just right, because state law exempts agricultural burns from fire restrictions and fire bans. So even if we implement those, a restriction or a ban, the ditch companies will still burn. So I'm here to enforce the law, not create it.
I knew that, and there was one big one south of my way south of my property, but it got everyone all up in arms, but I've said, I think they're burning agriculture. So, so really there is no, proactive thing for us to do. We'll have to react to those, so.
Right, we'll have to react to those. I mean, the good thing is, I mean, they're typically responsible, right? They know the rules, they know the expectations, they don't burn during windy days. Things can happen by surprise, but we're not dealing with a bunch of folks who are bad actors intentionally or who are uninformed about the risks for what they're doing.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. So I wanted to have Brad speak a little bit about kind of the current status of our big mitigation grants. We have two of those CWDG grants, and what's the current status, and then what is planned for this year?
Thanks, Lori. Hi, I'm Brad. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it. These are some pretty exciting projects in the mitigation world that we're looking at, but our mitigation coordinator, Josh Roberts, as he likes to say, it's a really good start. So the Community Wildfire Defense Grant that I'm working on primarily is about $10 million from the U.S. Forest Service, and it is to implement wildfire mitigation treatments in the Red Feather Lakes area, Crystal Lakes community, Glacier View, Cherokee Meadows, and Poudre Canyon. So looking ahead this year, we're really embarking on creating a program to assist homeowners with work in the home ignition zone specifically. That's currently in the request for proposal phase, so we hope to get started on that this summer. And then we're also continuing with our road treatments that we're about a third of the way towards the total goal on that. And that's in large part due to the efforts of the Sheriff's Office. And thanks so much for offering up the Phantom Canyon crew. They've been our primary roadway treatment implementers, which is great. We've contracted out the biomass hauling, so all of the slash and basically tree trash that they create doing those roadway treatments. We have contractors come and haul that off the landscape as quickly as possible. I've learned, kind of being somewhat new to the area, just how big of a problem slash management actually is. I know everybody else knows that, and I'm a little late to the party, but it's real. It's about a third of the total costs, and not only that, but just all of the headaches that it costs. So we don't want to leave any of that out on the landscape any longer than we have to as we move into these other projects. So home ignition zone is the big one for 2026. And continuing with roadway treatments, as well as the evacuation plans and implementing the community wildfire protection plans for all of these communities. That's basically what we're doing here, so.
And all that's done in partnership with the sheriff.
And it's all done in partnership with the Sheriff's Office. And I shouldn't leave out economic and workforce development also. They hired a seasonal crew of the Larimer Conservation Corps over the winter, and they helped us do pilot projects for the HIZ. They've also been kind of the CWDG bondo. They kind of do what's needed when it's needed, whether that's consolidating slash piles or helping to haul that off, and a little saw work with Phantom Canyon as well. So it's really collaborative within multiple county offices and with some of our nonprofit partners, like the Coalition for the Poudre River Watershed, for example, which helps not only accomplish it within the grant period, but then continue the work, because we're not going to be able to do all of it. We'll barely scratch the surface of what needs to be done countywide.
Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's a second grant project that we don't have an executed agreement for yet, but we hope to get that this year. That's the Gateway to the Rockies, which is the area around Estes Park, Glen Haven, and Loveland Fire Protection District down at the bottom of the canyon there. It's similar goals, but different amounts allocated to each activity category to accomplish the same kind of work in a different area of the county.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll have Cole talk about, we'll talk just kind of about preparedness efforts as well as kind of ongoing activities. So Cole was going to talk to you guys about a few of his big projects for the year and a drill that we have planned.
All right. All right, I'm Cole Parrott, Deputy Emergency Manager. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but we did put in place a new continuity of operations kind of maintenance policy that's going through right now. The way we used to do COOP was the shortened version of that continuity of operations plan. But the way we used to do it is have departments kind of fill out a template that was stored on a Larimer County Google Drive or Larimer County OEM Google Drive. And then we kind of manually ask folks to update this. And as you can imagine, that kind of isn't the best way of managing stuff. So what we've done is we've actually implemented a new policy that's going to require departments to maintain a COOP plan. So that continuity of operations plan is going to be very helpful for us, of course, and you guys for making decisions, prioritization, policy decisions if we have events and we have to make choices with the county departments and offices. So this document it's essentially a list of requirements. It's what departments and offices what they need to operate, the funds they use to operate, who operates it, and what they're legally obliged, what they have to do. So that's all kind of in there. And of course, if we have an event, then we pull all these together and look and make choices. So what we want to do is make sure that this document is up to date and relevant. Of course, if we have an event and we need to pull these documents together, the information needs to be usable, or else it becomes we have to then go out at the time of an event and find all this information. So of course, this policy now requires departments to update annually. They have to at a minimum, as well as if they have major changes. So we're using some of our county IT infrastructure and software to manage this using Power DMS. But this is going to be a big effort this year. So the policy was just put in place, and we're going through the process now of working with departments individually to first of all see they as a department, have to fill out one of these COOP pages, but also who under their department needs to fill one out as well. Right? You might have different offices or divisions that need to also fill out this information. So we're working with them to make sure that this year, over 2026, every department and office who's being required per their department head to fill out a page like this has one, and that they're in compliance by the end of the year. So that way, of course, if we have stuff, as we've seen in this last year with just different fiscal challenges as well as emergencies and disasters. But any disruption, we want to make sure that this information is here and ready to go at the time that we need it, and that you guys have it accessible as well. So that's kind of one of the big efforts that we have going on is this COOP maintenance policy implementation and making sure everyone is in compliance with that and sees the need and is supported in doing that. So that's kind of the big one. The next thing is, we have a number of exercises coming up. As we've mentioned, there's a lot of collaboration that goes into making sure that we're prepared. So we've also dealt with there's kind of the PSPS, the public safety power shutoffs this year, and a number of different other disruptions. So we want to make sure that we're working with our infrastructure partners. So I say that just to say that we have a big effort going on to make sure that we're supporting those infrastructure partners and our key resources and lifeline utilities. So our water, wastewater, electric, gas, those kind of utilities are being supported, and they're brought into this world of emergency management, and that we are collaborating with them during disruptions. So we have an exercise coming up in the next month where we're bringing all of those partners in and making sure that they're obviously one of the last year we did a workshop where we talked with a lot of these infrastructure partners, and one of their biggest gaps they said was even just coordinating with themselves. So we're pulling together a large exercise with them and these infrastructure partners to ensure that we can help them and support them in making sure that they can communicate effectively amongst themselves, and also know the different support systems that exist in the county, like the different offices of emergency management, as well as the ones at the municipal. That they know who their partners are and they can communicate with each other and just kind of work together that way. Because obviously we're going to have more of this PSPS type situations or other disruptions that could impact our critical infrastructure and key resources. So we have that going on. And then another one is just we have a large effort that is just kind of continuing our work with reunification. So there's a lot of reunification, a lot of work that goes into that, and a lot of partner agencies. We've worked with American Red Cross, as well as us at the Larimer Regional EOC, and a number of other partners and Larimer County partners, including Human Services. So there's with different disruptions and different folks kind of being in and out and available. We have bandwidth issues with some of our folks with Human Services as well. So we need to ensure that all of our partners that are involved, we kind of maintain a level of readiness that we need to be. So that's what we're doing with reunification. We've implemented some different software and solutions to help us track and coordinate better with hospital systems and our nonprofit partners, as well as us at the regional EOC, and just kind of ensuring that we are maintaining this level of readiness for reunification in case the community needs us to implement that solution for them. So we'll continue working on that. That's a big effort, is just implementing this new software and also exercising that and making sure we're ready to go. So that's just a few quick examples of some of the preparedness efforts we're doing with all of our partners as it relates to exercising, and then just also what we're doing with the county as far as preparedness and ensuring we're ready for disruption with COOP.
And related to that, we are working with the Red Cross on data sharing agreements. We've always had a little bit of a gap in disasters where if Red Cross is running a shelter or if they're running like the Family Assistance Center for reunification, they haven't been able to share the data with us, which creates a gap. And then that causes confusion for our community members because they think that we should already have that information. So we are working with them and with the state of Colorado on trying to get that data sharing agreement. I'll have Camille and Ricardo both speak about some of the activities coming up this year as well, and then I will round it off with my last thing.
Yeah, howdy y'all. My name's Camille Millard. I'm the Preparedness and Resiliency Coordinator. So some of our biggest projects we have coming up, where Cole talked about public partnership preparedness, we have a lot of goals with community resilience and preparedness happening this year. So one of them is that annual community evacuation drill that we do each year. This year's community is the Pinewood Lake Reservoir area. So very excited to work with that community. It's a part of the area that we don't typically get to, especially because so many of our preparedness focuses have been in that Cameron Peak area the last couple of years. So the Pinewood Lake Wildfire Action Group, some members of the LCESO group, Derek and Dakota, myself, and a couple of other members have been on that evacuation plan or committee, and that is scheduled for May 30th. I will send the sign up form so you guys can make sure we get you tracked there and you're included on the food. Yeah, the food order. But that is a full day event. Very excited for that. And leading into some of the other projects that Brad was talking about, on top of our annual evacuation drill, both of those 2 CWDG grants, there is an evacuation drill component written into both of those. So for the next 5 years, at any given year, we will have a minimum of 2, but a maximum of 3 evacuation drills running. One within CWDG round 2 communities, one with CWDG round 3 communities, and then possibly like a third community like Pinewood Lake. If you consider it, they're not written into any of those 2 grants. So it's still trying to hit communities that aren't wrapped into those grants. Those evacuation drills by the CWDG grants will be conducted by a contractor, in which I'm the program manager on that. So we don't expect to see completely different versions of drills happening. They should stay concurrent and pretty similar depending on, the specifications of the community, but we wouldn't want one drill to be completely different unless that's exactly what the community asked. And all of those drills are being created through community input, through the what is the board called? The advisory group boards on that. So very excited about the amount of real-time drilling we're going to be able to do with evacuations, of course. Who knows with fires and stuff. Yeah, but then also going forward, we now are on a regular scheduled cadence for our disaster education. That Dare to Prepare program happens quarterly now in different formats. So the next one coming up on that is scheduled for the end of March, and we do hope to get that program translated completely. We have some of our documents translated, but we still haven't actually gotten to the ability to teach it. So that's our biggest goal of 26, is to make sure that that education program comes into multiple languages, English and Spanish. Lastly, we have a bunch of fun plans for the Community Hub program this year centered around public education. I just had our first quarterly meeting of the year, and the biggest thing all of the Community Hub members said is that they want, on top of our regular scheduled disaster education, more, because, like we all have heard here, people are scared about our drought levels and our fire expectations for the summer. So planning to do like kind of a tour through the library systems of public education with that, and then reach in with each of those Community Hub members and talk to some boards, go to their HOAs more. So a lot of touching in with them directly, as long as along the lines of expanding into the urban core zones with that. So all of our community hubs right now are really located in our wild urban interface areas. And so again, trying to run that more into Loveland, into Fort Collins, into Berthoud, which we have some, but really utilizing that public infrastructure that's already there. A cool win that we've had in 2025 with our Community Hub program is that we partnered with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment to get purple air filters located at a bunch of three of our Community Hub locations. And those purple air filters are air quality, they look like Roku devices that go into the buildings, and we put devices inside and outside to try to track what is these public buildings that we're guiding people to go towards for disasters. What is their air quality like during smoke events? And so there was recently in the Estes Library, they had a smoke event happen where there was a prescribed burn that was causing some fire into the area. And the public library was able to set out an information like, your air quality might be bad at home, but it's not bad at our library. Our purple air filter says it's great. Come on down. So, and that's with the longer term project, to look at air quality resilience hubs, try to see what that might come up, if that's something the county wants to pursue, or does that stay within its municipal areas, which is where it's currently hosted. It's up to municipalities to decide when they want to set up, air quality resilience hubs. And resilience hubs are a hot button topic that everyone is using that word 1,000 different ways. And the last thing I will mention on general preparedness, besides all of those evacuation drills and the local community hub stuff, it is a large goal of Larimer County's OEM team to update our resilience framework. And what that's going to look like is not necessarily updating the framework itself, but trying to put together something different and more unique that might look like a resilience summit plus a update on all of the resilience projects that we've had listed in like all of the different plans we have around the county, and where are we actually? We're with the plan we said in 2016 that we would do X, Y, and Z. So putting together a document that shows almost a where are we now with those resilience projects, that resilience summit, and then using that resilience summit to try to springboard into 27 what a resilience framework might look like for the county based off of actual community input. And Lori just hated that I did my quotation marks, but yeah, so that is kind of, in a nutshell, a lot of the projects slotted for 26 going into 27 around community preparedness and that resilience, building that culture of resilience within us. So, kick it to Ricardo.
Alrighty. Hi, Commissioners. My name is Ricardo Perez, also with the Larimer County Office of Emergency Management. Just to add a few things to what Camille mentioned on preparedness. So we're taking a focus also on engaging and building the relationships with people with disabilities in the county, and then also folks that live in the mobile home park areas in both unincorporated and in the municipalities. we've reached out to folks, organizations that serve people with disabilities, and then MIVOS, who works with the network of mobile home parks in Larimer County and within the municipalities. But we wanted to include them in both the planning, obviously in the outreach and preparedness, and how we can provide information that's actually useful to the different audiences that we have, and kind of use the partnership to build the resources information for the folks that need it most. But we've also incorporated them and invited them to our access and functional needs working group that we created a few years ago, to try and meet the needs of people that have different resource needs in emergencies and disasters. It could be communication, maintaining health, safety, transportation, medical equipment as well. So we want to do more of that effort to plan with folks, especially the folks that need it, not just planning for them and kind of expecting the best results. But so yeah, we're kind of improving the way that we do the partnerships and the actual delivery of the information preparedness in that sense. The other piece is that we're looking to interview some outreach seasonal interns for our office. We have 2 interviews next week for hopefully 2 positions that are during kind of the peak season of outreach. We typically have anywhere from like 20 to 25 events from May to September. So yeah, we'll be out in the summer, but we're hoping to train some additional folks, increase the capacity, and see how we can kind of keep improving the outreach. And then the last thing I'll mention is, so this is the 50-year anniversary of the Big Thompson flood of 1976. So we're planning commemoration for the day will be on July 31st. That was the date of the flood 50 years ago. So we're still honing out kind of details on location, time, but it'll be that day, and we'll hope to share information and have folks there.
All right. Lastly, this has kind of been mentioned throughout, but the public safety power shutoffs, and not just that, but the high wind events that are causing power outages have caused us to really have a focus in 2026 on trying to ensure that we have the appropriate services and information available to people who are energy dependent with medical needs. And so we do have a meeting coming up with this Disability Resource Services with them to talk about a webinar series or an education series, whether it's in person or virtual, for folks who might have needs. And then also we worked with LETA, the Larimer Emergency Telephone Authority, on a keyword. So we don't send out emergency alerts when we have a power outage, because for a number of reasons. But we do want to make sure that people, if they want the information, they can opt into it. So when we have these events coming up in the future, we are going to tell everybody ahead of the event that they can sign up for that keyword. It's NOCO Power, so NOCOPOWER. And if you just put that into your phone, if you text 888-777 and put NOCO Power in your phone, then anytime that there's going to be, if we know something's coming up with power outages or these wind events, we'll be able to send out that information. It'll also allow us to send out information about if we establish comfort centers. So those comfort centers are in coordination with the utility providers. They bring dry ice to that. They might bring charging stations. We have some charging stations. So we're starting to really try to build that out. The biggest challenge that we've had with this is oxygen. We as a county cannot provide oxygen because it's a prescription medication. And so we're really having a hard time figuring out how, when somebody is specifically on a concentrator, how to get them the oxygen they need. So we have a new intern. She just started with us, Kim, I'm going to say her last name wrong, so I'm not going to say it. Kim, and she actually works in a hospital system, and so her whole internship with us is to do the research and get the data and the analysis around how do we solve these challenges for people who have energy dependencies, and how does it work with the medical systems that we have in place, like EMS, the hospitals. And so as we get more information, I'll let you know. But I wanted you to know that I know that there's some community members that have concerns about this. We are working on it. There are some challenges, though, that aren't easy to overcome. So as we get more information, we're definitely going to, we're working with Ricardo and the PIO group to try to figure out how do we get this information out to people in a better way. So now, I guess, anybody have any other things that they wanted to talk about? So I want to open it up to questions for y'all.
Commissioner Stevens?
Sure. Well, that was a lot of information. I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you. And I think it's really good for the community to hear about the work that you're doing, both preventative, largely preventative work at this time. you know, from hearing from the sheriff, this preventative work is really important because we are facing a very dry and windy spring and summer. So first of all, I really like the idea of the purple air filters from CDPHE. You know, particulate matter is really concerning, and obviously people who have any kind of respiratory illnesses, whether they're older folks or younger folks with asthma. So I think that that's great, and if we're getting them to the library, double bonus. I mean, read a book, everyone. So I really, you know, applaud that. I think that that's a really great partnership, and it, you know, thinking about, I guess it's something I've never really thought about. I've thought about, you know, sort of cooling stations, and we've talked about different things, but I mean, the air quality is a really big concern. So so I'm very supportive of that, and just thank you, you know, for the information about, you know, working through folks with oxygen and other medical needs and disabilities. I mean, these are folks who it's not very easy to evacuate. My dad was on oxygen, and I used to have to lift that, when we traveled on vacations, lift that big giant thing that, you know, makes the oxygen into my parents' minivan a lot. And, you know, I mean, it's not that easy to get around when you're reliant on oxygen. So let us know if there's any ways we can help, but I appreciate you sort of digging in and figuring out some solutions to that. And I know you're also working with Excel, and, you know, I mean, what's the responsibility of the utilities in this kind of space when you're shutting off utilities and you know you have people who are reliant on that. So I you know, thank you for working through that. I know there's not easy answers, but I trust you to find solutions. And then just so I guess I really haven't had any questions, just really comments, but I just wanted to thank Lori because she spoke at our Resilient Counties Innovation Council in Washington, D.C. on Sunday morning at 8. And I think that the people were really happy to hear from her. They were, you know, she was sharing about the resilience hubs and the work that you all have done, and it was very well received. And, you know, several of our colleagues from across Colorado came and talked to her, and then one colleague came from Rio Blanco County and said, I couldn't make it to that event, but I want to tell you how much Lori helped us with our situation. And so, you know, you are statewide and nationwide appreciated, you and your team, for the innovative work that you're doing. So I just wanted to call that out. And I think that's it for me. Just really appreciate all of you and the work that you're doing, and keep up the good work. And thank you for letting the public know too.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. Commissioner Kafals, do you have questions or comments, sir?
Yes, actually, I have both. I'll try to at least offer a couple and see how much time we have. The first one is regarding the most recent comments about working with our like Excel. Recently, they sent out an email, I'm sure we all got it, that they've developed this new program for battery storage. I'm wondering if you folks can comment on that and whether you see that to be helpful, and is there a role for the county to helping to get the word out, you know, for people who need backup electricity for medical equipment?
I did see that email, and I did look into the program. The challenge there is that a lot of the folks that are on oxygen are also, they have, what's the word, income, what's the word I'm looking for? They have a fixed income. And so this gives you a rebate of, I think, like $1,000 off of a system-wide thing. And so most people aren't going to have the amount that they're going to need even with that rebate. So I think that smaller battery systems are probably better for people to run a generator just to run like the refrigerator for insulin or the oxygen tanks, right? Instead of a system-wide kind of a program. So I applaud them for having a program like this, but I do think that there's some barriers for those who have a fixed income and are unable to meet that requirement, you know.
And that's, your point is well taken, and I think that the rebate might be up to like 10 grand, but you're right, you have to have the money up front.
Yeah.
And it's problematic for a lot of folks. Perhaps one of the things that the intern Kim could research is, are there examples of programs where, you know, especially folks on fixed incomes, you know, smaller battery systems might be something that the county could explore, and then see what the resources are for that. Is that something that that person could look into?
Yes, Kim DeMoy, I now have her name in my mind. She is looking at that, like what is currently available, what programs might be available to folks. And then also, your last statement there
Well,
said,
I just want to see if there are, smaller scale battery storage projects for people on fixed
Yes.
incomes and
so we looked at also, would
course.
it make sense, since we can't get oxygen as a county, would it make sense to just have those battery packs that then can be like offered out or loaned to people
go.
if needed? But the problem with that, though, is every concentrator has a different plug-in or battery, right? So we're running into that as well. So that's why she's come on to look at this from kind of that broader perspective to see what's available to us to be able to assist people. And it might just be that, we can't do anything about the oxygen. We also can't do anything about the power in their home because of whatever barriers there are. Where can they go that's safe so that they're able to manage through that disaster? That's another thing that we're looking at too. So we're looking at the wide range of possibilities for folks.
May I ask another question? And make sure I get a chance to express my gratitude. I mean, obviously, we have a good team. We do our best to work together with the emergency services folks in the sheriff's office, and we try to prepare as much as we can. My next question is, and if time allows, I have a couple more, but we'll see. And that is going back to the sheriff's office. In light of the current conditions and in light of the dashboard, the data dashboard, which our brilliant IT guy in emergency services helped put together, it's not looking good. And so I'm wondering, are there longer term forecasts? What can we expect this summer?
Thank you, Commissioner. The answer is more of the same. That's what our 30 to 45 day forecasting for the National Weather Service is sharing with us, is that the next 30 to 45 days. And of course, the longer out you go, the less accurate the weather forecast becomes. But
there's a likelihood it's going to be hot and dry this summer.
yes,
And that increases the risk. And I know we're doing all this preparation, but in light of 100% fold increase in risk, are there other measures that we are doing or can be doing? I guess I don't know how you prepare for if it's hot and dry, 10, 95-degree day weather and the wind picks up again. We've been lucky so far, so I just hope that luck continues. But what else can we do to be ready for that other than make sure people get it, that we shouldn't be throwing cigarette butts on the ground and everything else?
well, I think that's, I wish I had that magic certainty, that 100%, right? And unfortunately, we don't. People are going to start camping if it stays hot and dry like this down here. They're going to go camp in the wilderness, and you have to be responsible for the fires, even with the bands, and educating people with variable messaging boards, and the preparation that Lori and her team are doing for and Justin and his team are doing when it kicks off. You're right. We have an amazing team in Larimer County. Unfortunately, we have a well-practiced, amazing team in Larimer County, and so we're doing everything we possibly can. But
And I'm sure, and I appreciate that, and I'll stop after this. Just that, within human capability, we're doing everything we can. We can't control everything, and I imagine we'll be on the edges of our seats as the May, June, July, August rolled around, ready to put our fire hats on if we have to.
Also, at the kind of I guess, state and federal level as well, whenever we have these types of conditions, they'll also make some decisions with regard to air assets and also ground resources and where they put them. However, if the entire West is dry, then we might have a decrease, obviously, in available resources. But they're always looking at that, too, as well as the conditions, to figure out resource availability and where they want to shift resources to.
And hopefully we'll still have FEMA to help us out where we need some help.
Yeah.
I'm done for now. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I have some questions, comments I would like to make with the time left.
so as leaders in our community, right, this is one of the areas where we can use your advocacy. So at the state level, and as we are going to as well, FNL is getting resurfaced this year, right? So they're doing it. It's going to be shut down sometime this summer for 161 days. So the airport. The airport in the summertime is where our seat base is located for Northern Colorado, our single engine air tankers, Right now, there's not a plan other than to keep them in Sterling, which is an hour flight time, or down in El Paso. So it would be great if, and some of our state level partners are the ones who make those decisions, that we could move on. Maybe Greeley is an option, maybe Cheyenne is an option. Keeping them in Sterling while FNL gets resurfaced is not the best option for us. So I'm going to advocate for that, and I can help point you in the right direction where the advocacy should happen as well.
Good point. Larimer County Sheriff, I had just learned about that the other day, and I say what? That's really not the best timing. Just to add on to what we could do as residents is, number one, sign up for leader alerts. Make sure our neighbors and friends and family sign up for leader alerts. Support local measures to increase revenue for wildfire mitigation, and support efforts to help mitigate around your home, and get some resources through our community, understand how you can prepare your own property and maybe help your neighbors. Number two, learn about, things that increase our wildfire risk, and maybe look to, as a community, to support those. We have, as a state, for the only 10 to 15% of the most imperiled watersheds, we'll need $200 million a year for the next 30 years to address that need. In Larimer County, we know we have over $400 million worth of mitigation work to do, and that doesn't come, there's no one coming to pay that bill. We're going to have to take care of that ourselves. But to know what your risk is, even if you live in the city, and how you can help minimize your risk, there's lots of resources at the state and local and county level to help with that. And I hope everyone will take advantage of contacting their appropriate authorities or going to the websites to learn more about how they can be responsible homeowners, and also contribute to the efforts to help us all be prepared. We knew this was coming. And eventually we didn't hope it'd be the worst ever, or second worst ever, but I think we're going to be on record to be the worst ever. But it is certainly some things we can do to help contribute to that. So lots of work to do. The questions I have, when we talked about the no-co power energy dependencies, and you talked about some of the folks you're connecting with, are we also connecting maybe with Senior Centers, Office on Aging, maybe the ARC of Larimer County that deals with folks with disabilities? Also, we have the Regional Emergency Technical Advisory Committees that maybe might have some resources or might want to be connected to that. Since I came off my state emergency medical trauma services advisory meeting, it's I have a lot on my list to talk to you about, Lori. And so I'm just wondering how we're connecting with those, and how we can maybe make them broaden that outreach to help folks understand about the opportunities there.
I will say that the Disabled Resource Services meeting that we have coming up is kind of that first step, but Ricardo's been working with the Access and Functional Needs Work Group for a while now, so I'll let him talk about that.
Thanks.
Yeah, and two of the organizations you mentioned, the ARC of Larimer County is a part of the Access and Functional Needs Working Group, and they've been crucial in kind of filling the Access and Functional Needs officer type role in our Emergency Operations Center. And I just forgot the other organization that you mentioned.
The Office on Aging.
Office on Aging, yeah. So the Office on Aging is also in our Access and Functional Needs Working Group, and they've been looking at both older adults and as well as people with disabilities and the resources, the connections they have. But yeah, we've engaged with those two agencies, and then other agencies that are part of the Access and Functional Needs Working Group are the Red Cross, the emergency managers within the Larimer County jurisdictions, Disabled Resource Services, and then MIVOS, who we just invited to kind of have that mobile home park perspective. But yeah, if there's any other organizations that could help in kind of being that connector to people that may have different needs, that's a great group that we facilitate every other month. And then anybody in our office can obviously kind of connect to folks.
I just want to bring up RETAC because, with them having connections to emergency services, it might just be another, at least they're aware and they feel maybe they're in the loop, and so that would be great. My other question is about the July 31st. I was 10 years old when I was in love and looking at the flood, and that's very clear, ugly, awful memories for me as a child, but and just heartbreaking. I go up to the memorial every year for about 10 years now, and I always run into a survivor or impacted resident, and the stories are still really heartbreaking. I'm wondering if I'm assuming you're reaching out to some of those folks and maybe inviting them to be a part of this, and are we going to include anything with the memorial? I don't know who to ask, but just curious about that.
Yeah, so we just put out an ask on social media yesterday that we want to kind of share people's stories that were here in Larimer County during the 76 flood. So we've gotten some responses, we've gotten some people connected. But yeah, we're definitely we're in the planning phase of this event. So anybody that you know that could have been there, that has a story that they want to share, we'll be planning, kind of creating an event and kind of working also with the city of Loveland. They also want to commemorate. So we'll be working with them.
Great, and I want to make sure, I'm assuming they're still alive, as the solid waste manager who was instrumental in saving lives. Yeah, Stephen Gillette, will he be there?
I hope so, but I don't have his contact.
Well, I would love to make sure that he's there and honored and recognized. That would, in my opinion, I think he's very critical, so. Okay. Then about the purple air filters and the air quality resilient hubs. Remember that fire conference I attended, and I asked about the smoke preparedness plans or whatever. This sounds very similar to what I was asking about. This seems very similar to, at least people know they have places to go to get out of that. So do you think there's an overlap there?
No, this is a pilot project still, right, through CDPHE?
Yeah, so the goal of these purple air filters right now are to stay at the Estes Library, the Berthoud Rec Center, and the Red Feather Library, and not necessarily to create messaging that these are air quality shelters. That's not the goal. It's more to fill a gap a little bit. Some of these areas had no purple air filters, and if you go to the purple air filter website, you can see everyone that has one, and their data is automatically, shot to the cloud of purple air filter. I'm not in engineering or IT, but it was to fill those gaps in those areas, and then to also start the conversation with some messaging of the library is open for traditional hours. Anyway, today you can come here if your HVAC system at home is not experiencing, the same level of clean air. So I wouldn't say, Lori's right, it's a pilot, but it's not necessarily a full, complete step to drafting air quality sheltering plans yet. It's more like collecting data, seeing, do people actually show up when we put these messages for these public areas? Do they pull up because they are experiencing air quality issues at home? And then these purple air filters are located both inside and outside the building to also track the HVAC system itself. Are the systems that are currently in these public use buildings capable to even do air quality sheltering in the future? Because we would not want to tell people to pull up to the library when the library is experiencing the same bad air quality as the rest of the town. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yep, that was very helpful. Thank you. And then last, and I'll turn it over to Lorinda. Sorry, I have lots of questions. I might have more offline, but the summit you talked about, or these exercises, I had a conversation with Lorinda at the City of Loveland. Policymakers maybe need a refresher on procedures or process and how to funnel folks to the right information. Is there any refresher for locals to understand?
I'm willing to do any training that you guys think is needed. We can always tailor the ICS 402, the executives class. We can tailor that to ongoing needs. We always have new elected officials in the county as well. So Robert from Loveland and myself always talk about when we need to do those classes. But we could also do something that's very specific to a need that we have in the county. Just let Lorinda know and we can get that going.
Yeah, I think there's a need, and we talked about this. Then my last question is, and it just left me, dang it, I hate it when that happens. I'll come back to me, I'll ask you later. I just had it. I know, my head's spinning with a lot of things today. It'll come back to me. So Lorinda, do you have, my gratitude, this is so important, and it's always great to hear from you and learn all the things that you're involved with, and I appreciate all the advocacy. I've just barely missed you at the NAHO conference, but I was at some of the other FEMA talks and some of the other things, and I have some questions for you after that. And then yeah, there's just a lot to talk about. But I'll just thank you all for the great work, and you guys are always out in the community doing lots of connections, and I do think we have one of the best teams and partnerships in the state, if not the country, so I'm really grateful for that. So, Lorinda, would you like to close us out?
I guess you all mentioned a lot of details today about many, many programs you have going on. Can you give your website so folks can have access more directly to that information? If they're not taking notes, I promise you they don't know all the things that were said today. But the website is very all-encompassing. So would you give that web
Yeah,
address?
the website is larimer.org/emergency. Or larimer.gov/emergency, either one of those will work. And yes, it has it has different phases. Also, the Community Wildfire Defense Grant has a really nice page that shows where they're at with the different pieces and parts of the project, which is also good for the public to see. I think that the Phase 3 one in Estes Park will have something similar as well, so people can keep up with kind of what we're doing there. And then also, all of our team, our contact information is also on the website, so you can reach out to any one of us through that contact information. So if you have questions, we can answer those questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, again, thank you, everyone. It's been a great discussion, and at 3:31, we are adjourned. Have a great afternoon.